The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are.
I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
Don't think, feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Nick, welcome back. Quick question for you. How do you mitigate the virtual noise during your workflow? And what I mean by that is anytime you're working on a piece, if you are online, you will get that virtual scream of data coming down either side of your screen depending on what app you're in or what you can click over to. How do you stop looking for the virtual validation of red icons in Facebook and likes in Instagram, etc.?
Very often I don't, bud. It is definitely a difficult thing as I spend so much time in front of the computer for my work. But there is this one little trick that's been helping that I've used in other parts of my life, and that is if I'm trying to train a particular habit. Let me use a really arbitrary example. Let's say I want to take a new route to, let's say I'm walking to work every day and I want to take a new route, but I've been walking the same route for so long, it's almost automatic that I turn left when I get to the end of my street as opposed to turning right. Then what I'll do is, if I ever turn left and I find myself remembering and I'm not too far into the journey, I will literally backtrack and get to that point and then force myself to turn right. So it's this little recondition of my mind. So for the digital stuff, if I am writing an article and then a Facebook notification pops up, I will, if I made the mistake of going and starting to look at the notification and I catch myself, I instantly go back to the article and start writing. So I've almost forced myself to stick with that path. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Another thing is I turn off all the notifications, man. Like, I don't want, the fewer distractions the better. So I try to turn off the phone and I try to turn off all the Mac OS X's built-in notifications and just close all of the browser tabs and just have my music on and the window that I'm working in. But it's tough because you want to use the thesaurus, to look up something when you're writing an article. So you'll open up a new tab and then the thesaurus will open and then there might be a little ad that you'll want to click on, or it's so difficult. So I can believe that study that shows that our frontal lobes are being changed due to the way we interact with information. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, where's that study?
Oh man, I mean, I wish I could just throw up a reference, but it's floating around.
We'll put it on the video. We'll have it scroll across the bottom of the screen.
I'll leave that with you.
Yeah, right.
But apparently, yeah, like the fact that we are clicking from, because the way the way information is presented on internet using hyperlinks, it's almost like a web, and you go from here to there, and it bounces you to here, and then there, and then there, which is actually very similar to the neural networks within our brains. I mean, and apparently what's happening is certain parts of our frontal lobes are designed to work with information in that way, but we're overusing them almost, and so that part of our frontal lobe is developing more than it should. And again, this is my interpretation of this, is sketchy at best. I would suggest you check out the article yourself. But my instinct, whether or not that article is true, I would say my instinct tells me that the nature of the way we're processing information by sitting in front of screens all the time, it cannot be good for us. It doesn't. I don't feel good.
I totally agree. So that being the case, do you think it would be prudent for you to start really putting the kibosh down on how much time you're spending? You talked about it earlier, how you like, oh, well, I look at screens too much, it's affecting my eyes. I think it's affecting my brain, which is what you're saying with the study. And I don't know. I'm like, well, do I need to start? We talked about an information diet in the past. Would it be prudent at this point to start going, all right, that's 8 hours. Probably don't need more than that.
Yeah.
Go outside, go read a book, interact with people, God forbid, talk to somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
what should you do? What should I do?
You know, well, I know what I should do. Whether I'm going to do it or not is another question. What I should do is set aside 2 2-hour blocks each day, one in the morning and one in the evening, whereby that is designated computer time or screen time, and just stick to that. But I don't do that. I know, especially with this thing with my eyes, now that my eyes are actually becoming a bit strained, I've realized that it's reached a point where I have to change. You know, as I said in our first episode, human beings are like that. They change when discomfort forces them into change. And my health is very important to me, and the fact that it's affecting my eyes means it has to change, and I'm definitely working on that. Hopefully I can be strict with myself and have discipline and dial it down to 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening.
Well, what the fuck are you going to do with all that other time?
Hopefully do things, something crazy like take a walk or read a book or, God forbid, do some exercise or maybe socialize with some people.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's been on my mind a lot, and I've been polling people. I'm like, how much screen time do you what kind of numbers are you looking at? And I'm hearing like 10 to 12 hours a day on average, and I think that's probably a probably decent average for a first world country. You know,
which is
it's
not right, dude.
I know. I mean, 10 years ago it's probably half that, and 10 years before that, well, I don't know. Television's been an issue for a long time, but it doesn't feel right inside.
Well, something you said about if every hour you'd spent in church as a kid, if you'd spent that hour on Sunday learning piano, you would have probably been a better person. I often wonder, like,
maybe, I mean, that's a big stretch, but maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're already an amazing person, but you would have been even better if you had been playing piano.
Right.
I know for a fact that if I took 50% of the time I spent staring at computer screens and mobile phone screens and instead used it to develop some other kind of skill, real-world based skill, such as playing the guitar or doing yoga or writing in a journal or anything like that, I know my life would be better. There's no doubt in my mind. And I know I'd probably be more productive because at this point I've realized that I've hit diminishing returns with
Productivity?
Me sitting down in front of my computer to do some work, like a lot of that time is being wasted. I can feel it, and I need to fix it.
So what's keeping you from taking that step to, spending an hour to learn an instrument or do those things that you mentioned? I mean, that's powerful for you to even recognize that. I think that's probably the case for most people with their screen time and their productivity. I know that that's the case at a cubicle type job. I mean, I think there are statistics on that. People are doing, like 20 minutes of work a day in an 8-hour day or something.
Is that time? Where did you hear that?
Don't make me quote a source, pal. You didn't have to quote a source.
We don't do that.
We make up stats on this show. I think it's low. I don't know if it's 20 minutes. That sounds absurd to even me, but it's definitely not 8 hours. People aren't doing 8 hours of work. Some of them are, but the vast majority?
The vast majority are not. Yeah. That makes me feel better because I have this... I don't know where it comes from, man. I don't know what its psychological root is or what the childhood occurrence was that installed this, but if I don't sit down, it usually needs to start in the morning as well. If I don't sit down early in the morning in front of my computer and get a good chunk of almost drudgerous work in, maybe drudgerous is not the right word, but like I have to feel, oh wow, this was intense concentration and this was quite difficult, and I sat and did that work. If I don't do that in the morning, I almost feel kind of guilty, and I wonder if it's because I've been trained through 12 years of public school, whereby you start at 8:30, like the bell rings, and then you're like working, and that's all to prepare you for when you get to the office at 9 one day and you work 3 to 5, and that's a good productive day, and you've been a good productive citizen,
Right.
a good cog in the machine. In fact, I'm pretty certain that's what it is. It's like some weird Protestant puritanical work ethic software running. I'm doing my very best to overcome that, because it's become clear to me that it's not necessarily about how hard you work or how long you work. It's about how smart you work. And I'd rather do 2 hours of very productive and intelligent and concentrated work than sit in front of the computer for 8 hours and just fuck around, basically, and be distracted. And I don't know if that makes
Comment
sense.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, when I was living in Korea, Koreans are famous for their work ethic and the hours they're putting in every week. But the productivity, the true story is the productivity is a lot lower than the amount of time that they're spending working.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly what you're talking about. Like if you show up and you're there for 70 hours a week, congratulations. It seems like you're really busting your ass, but how much of that is productive work? I guess that's sort of like Tim Ferriss's, realm of expertise. I don't really pretend to know anything about that. I just know that me personally, I feel like I need to be more productive, and perhaps there's a good chance that I can do it away from the screen, because that is sucking part of my attention away. It just does.
I heard once that the perfect day is 8 hours work, 8 hours play, and 8 hours rest to form the full 24 hours of a day. And I would like my life to get to that point where, I sleep a full 8 hours, and the rest of my day is split between doing stuff I absolutely love and doing something I find productive. Because for whatever the reason, whether or not it is some psychological programming, or for whatever reason, I don't feel good if I don't do some form of work. I don't know what it is. I know I eventually need to get over that or solve that, but at this current point in my life, I need to have done something that I consider to be productive, to, when I lay my head down on the pillow, think, oh, it's been a good day.
That's why anytime I've done physical work, physical labor, whether it's construction or painting, well, it all kind of goes under the umbrella of construction. That is some of the most satisfying work. It's like mowing a lawn. Like, it's palpable. I'm like, yep, did that. At the end of that, I'm like, I did that, and I can see it. Whereas when I write, I'm like, oh, I wrote an article. You know what I mean? It's cool, and it's ideas, but it's not like building a table. It's not like mowing a lawn where you're like, that's the thing that I did. Yeah. And that sort of goes back to my having a story for every single day. Like, if it's a physical story, that's great, because you can go, yes, I exist. And that's, now that I say it out loud, it's a pretty weird thing. Like, maybe it's this desperate need, to show yourself that you exist, and you're not just floating through in ones and zeros like the Matrix, and just doing what everyone says. And everyone wants to make a mark a little bit. I don't know that everyone is so narcissistic that they need to see proof at the end of every day, like I'm talking about. But it's if you talk to people that like make furniture or work construction, like, that's some satisfying shit. Like, look at that house. I built that. What'd you do today? Well, I moved some keys around, and I sent some very important reports. And that could be true, but it's not satisfying in the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know exactly what you mean. Exactly what you mean. There's an article you can find online. It's, if I'm not mistaken, it's called "You Are Not a Workhorse," and it's an allegorical tale about a horse that was a workhorse on a farm, and he eventually escapes and starts hanging out with this herd of other horses who have never worked a day in their life, and he learns to run and play and just be happy, even though and during the course of the story, he has to overcome his basic, or his programmed instinct that he should be working and should be chained to some sort of mechanical device like a plow or whatever, like he was his whole life. And I have to remind myself often that I didn't come to this planet to work, dude, and to be like some sort of productive unit to just gather resources or like mine gold or improve the bottom line on some company spreadsheet. Like, I'm not a workhorse or a work human. I'm here to just explore and experience and play, and there is some work involved in that, but it is not my primary function. I have to keep reminding myself of that. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, what a battle between wanting to be as efficient as possible and going, efficient at what? Like, we don't really need to be doing this very thing super efficiently because it's not making you more complete or helping you understand the world better. It's maybe just helping somebody's spreadsheet's bottom line. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Wow. Ugh, I think about it a lot, That's... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to navigate that myself. I know that it's a daily struggle, and it's the same as like, what am I doing here trying to do XYZ thing in entertainment or creatively when I can feel this deep part of my guts is just like, maybe you should just go hunt and live in the wilderness. It's really like, that is a powerful, powerful notion that I have, is that I should be living a very simple life, in a secluded place with my decent people around me and those great emotions. But like,
communes never work, bro.
I don't mean a commune. I just mean like not caught up in what people call the rat race. Not worried about how many Instagram followers you have, so that you can be seen and thought of as a decent candidate for the next role, or what gallery will take your paintings, or whether the editor wants to publish your article because you don't have, and on and on and on. It's a huge battle. Like, some days I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. And other days I'm like, I should just go.
So, again, dude, I mean, I think this is one of the symptoms of information overload, is that I at this point, there's so many things I'm reading and watching, and I can't even remember where I read this. But I can't even remember what the gist of the article was, but this one guy was talking about one of his friends who was a very successful either lawyer or surgeon, but I mean mega successful, earning millions of dollars a year. And he confided in his buddy, that he dreamed of being homeless. Like, he had everything. He had like all the cars, and he had a wife and children and this huge home and all the symbols of success and status. But he secretly, just every time he saw a homeless person, he longed for that ultimate freedom they must have. And that really hit me. And the funny thing that's been happening to me lately, I don't know, I was just thinking about it today. I needed to get this, funny enough, this Bluetooth headset for the show, and I've been finding that the consumer experience lately, like going and purchasing something, and this I needed. It's not like it was bought on a whim, It's not like I just went and bought myself an $800 leather sport coat or whatever. I needed this thing to do this and for various other things, but buying it and walking out of the store, it just felt so empty, man.
Wow.
I can't explain it. It's something I've been noticing more and more often. I used to look at there's a lot of people have that addiction, like shopping addiction, or they use retail therapy when they're feeling low. And I've even seen some aspects of that in myself when I'm like just feeling a bit dejected, or I know I've just something, life is overwhelming in some sense. Sometimes I'll think like, getting myself something small, like a magazine even, will make me feel a little bit better. And it never does, dude. It never does? It never
Not
does.
even a little bit?
Doesn't, dude, no. It always leaves me feeling like a bit empty, and like knowing that, there was a better way to deal with whatever was troubling you than buying something. And I think that that's all addictive behaviors, is that immediate gratification that you get, which is actually just usually covering up some sort of psychological energy that is like causing you some sort of discomfort. And the way you deal with that, the way you process that energy, is to direct your attention on something else that gives you that little addictive spike.
I'm hearing you right now, but I don't think you're buying the right magazines.
Thomas, man, as always, it's been a great pleasure to talk to you. I'm going to ask you for some personal recommendations on what magazines to buy.
Likewise.
If you've enjoyed listening to and or watching Digital Communion, please leave us a review on iTunes, and we both greatly appreciate that. Until the next time.
Hasta luego.
Yes.